Ford lost $5 billion selling EVs, but not all car manufacturers are struggling. GM actually had a banner year in 2024, selling the most amount of EVs they've ever sold. And in 2024, 1.3 million electric vehicles sold in the US. That's a lot of EVs. And right now, you're gonna see so many new electric car deals everywhere. And just like the new car market, if you check out the used car market for EVs, there's a lot of incredible deals. And in this video, I'm gonna show you 5 great EVs you can buy for under $15,000. If you've bought used cars in the past, of course you know that there's so many gas-powered combustion engine vehicles for really cheap prices. But that's also happening to the used car EV market. You wanna buy a really cheap EV? Look no further than a $2,500 Nissan Leaf. For the price of 2 Samsung OLED TVs, you can buy yourself an actual functioning EV. You remember the Nissan Leaf? It came out in 2010, back when Tesla was barely an idea. And now these older Nissan Leafs are insanely cheap deals. Of course, the reason that these used Leafs, or should I say Leaves, are as cheap as they are is because the battery degrades over time, so your range is gonna go down. But think about how much you're paying. $2,500 bills to get a car to take you from your office to your home back and forth during the work week, and you're spending nothing on maintenance. No gas, no oil changes, just tires. This is as cheap as it can get. Now you might be thinking, how expensive could the battery be if it fails on an old Leaf? These days there's a lot of companies that can replace your battery or refurbish it for not that much money. So if you think about it, you spend a few $1,000s fixing up the battery and you still have a really good vehicle for under 10 grand. That can be the ideal cheap daily commuter. And in the used Leaf market, I doubt you would lose any money if you did have to replace the battery and get rid of your Leaf after a year. But let's just say you don't want to deal with these cheap Leaves and have to worry about a dead battery. Luckily, you've got plenty of other options. Used car number 2 is a Chevy Bolt. Buy a used 2017 Bolt for $8,000. With the newer used EV, there's less of a chance of the battery dying, although you do have to deal with the degraded range. But if you look at the used car EV market, it's not like these batteries are dying left and right. Sure, some of them do die, but for the most part, you're just dealing with a lower range. And when you're picking these EVs, you can always go for one with a good EV battery health. That way you have to worry about less. And just think about how cheap these things are. An $8,000 Bolt, a $2,500 Leaf. These are perfectly reasonable modes of transportation, a daily commuter from your workplace to your home, or a quick trip to the grocery store. And the best part is you don't have to worry about maintenance, spend any money on anything other than tires. And I can tell you from experience that the time that I've owned my Tesla Model S Plaid, which is coming up on a year now, it really is nice not to worry about any kind of maintenance or oil changes or anything other than just replacing tires. So take advantage of this huge supply of used EVs, and while the demand is low, buy yourself a cheap, affordable daily commuter car. Let's say you do want to spend more money than what it would cost you to buy 3 Samsung OLED TVs. You have many more options, but still, they're pretty affordable. Used car number 3 is a Hyundai Kona for $15,000. Now the beauty about the Hyundais is it comes with a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty, which is insane. A 2018 model means you still have 3 years of extra warranty, so any worries you have with the battery are completely gone. The Korean car manufacturers have some of the best warranties of any car brand out there, and just like the Hyundai Kona, you could buy a 2018 Kia Niro for $15,000, which is basically the same car, and you get the same kind of warranty. You can't go wrong with either of these 2 EVs, hassle-free daily commuters at the great price of $15,000. Now, one thing to consider with both the Hyundai Kona and Kia Niro is neither of these 2 vehicles are particularly attractive. They're utilitarian, not designed for the enthusiast, kind of boring to be honest. But these kinds of cars are catering to the general audience who could care less about the way their car looks. All they need is a reliable way to get from one location to another. But let's say you do care about how your car looks. For that, I have option number 4, which is an electric Volkswagen Golf. The really nice thing about the electric Golf is it looks like its gas-powered counterpart. The electric version of the Golf shares similar driving characteristics as the combustion engine one, and in some ways it's even better because it's got the low center of gravity with the battery. But the one thing to consider with Volkswagen is you don't have that insane warranty that you do with Hyundai and Kia, and Volkswagen are not known for their reliability, so buy a used electric Golf at your own risk. Most EVs today are really trying to push the looks, making it look all weird and futuristic with lines everywhere, sharp angles. Some of it looks good, some of it looks terrible. But with the Golf, you have the standard looking Golf, which just looks great, so I'm glad VW didn't touch the design. Lastly, option number 5, and I hate to say it, is, you guessed it, a Tesla. Unfortunately, the smartest used EV purchase you could make is a Tesla, but everybody has one. But the Teslas have proven to be extremely reliable. They're everywhere, they run like a champ, and they've got great power. And if you do a search on used EVs, most of the cars are going to be used Teslas, older Model 3s and Model S's and Model Ys. But you know the crazy thing about used Teslas are examples like this one. This 2016 Tesla Model S has 300,000 miles on it. And the really crazy thing is, if you look at the owner's description, assuming he's not a liar, the battery range has only degraded from 280 miles to 255. So for a used Tesla with that many miles that's 9 years old, that's really strong performance from the battery. And Teslas, of course, have superchargers everywhere. Charging Teslas are super easy. So if you really want a hassle-free EV experience, the Tesla will be the way to go. The only thing is everyone else will have one, so that's just something you have to live with. If you buy a non-Tesla EV, charging is always going to be something you need to worry about. So if you have a house, that's the best place to do it, because overnight, just charge it, get the few miles that you need for your daily commutes, and your job's done. And if you don't have a house, then go for a Tesla for sure, because at least you can charge it. Doesn't matter if you're living in an apartment, just hit up a supercharger and you'll be good to go. But living with an EV in an apartment complex would be painful, because then you have to drive around looking for chargers, and that's just gonna add way more stress to your life. Of course, I would never recommend EVs for road trips because public chargers are a disaster. Tesla superchargers, not so much. Every other charger, you just don't know where you're gonna get yourself into. And if you try to make these road trips, you are for sure gonna get stuck somewhere in your cheap used EV. So I just mentioned these 5 options, but if you do a search, there's so many that you're gonna come across. Like this $4,000 Fiat 500e. If you end up buying a really cheap used EV, leave a comment. I'd love to hear about your experience. We are still in the early days of EVs. There's going to be so many more that's manufactured, and the used EV car market will just keep growing and growing, so many more deals are going to pop up. And once the public EV charging infrastructure is solved and it's as good as Tesla's, if not better, then EV demand will shoot through the roof. But at least for now, while the used car EV market supply is huge and demand is low, snag yourself a really good deal, and it's something you will not regret.